Hey, welcome to the iPhoneography podcast. I'm Greg McMillan, and I am so fortunate to actually be here because I had a major glitch with my computer and I had to send it in to get it fixed. And it just came back this afternoon. So I got everything back up and running. I had a massive marathon session of doing this and doing that and getting everything going. But finally, it's here. It's up and going, and here I am. So on that note, let's bring in these two guys here. We'll bring in Dwight and Dave. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
That's good.
Enjoying spring.
Doing
Yeah,
great, guys. How you doing?
not too bad at all. Better now, anyway. That's for sure. I almost had to do this from a 9-year-old laptop. It's the one that I bought for my wife all the way back then, and it's the MacBook Retina. I call it the MacBook nothing because there's nothing else to it. There's just a MacBook and a screen and one port. Ooh, what are you gonna do with one port besides charge it? So Dave and I did a little test yesterday, and I'm so glad we tested it because when I went to screen share, it crashed. It crashed StreamYard. So I knew that wasn't going to work. And then, Dave was all ready to do all the screen sharing and everything else for us. But then I got a call this afternoon saying they had it ready. So we're good to go.
Yep. Well, it's always good to prep it just in case because you never know. But
Yeah.
it's good to know there's backups now available.
Yeah. And just a little tip, kids. Don't run beta software on your Mac. Now, I wasn't running beta software on this thing at the time. Like I've been on the actual public release for ever since Mac OS Sequoia came out, whenever that was. And when at one point I was running the beta, and the guys at the repair shop said that they couldn't understand what it was, but then they found out from a message from Apple or whatever, and it was something to do with the firmware from a beta, one of the beta releases. So once they got that figured out, they were able to put the operating system back in, get everything going, and so now I am no longer going to run a beta software on this computer because even though I could have used that little MacBook as a backup, I don't want to have to go through that. And it was just a bit of a stressful nightmare for a couple of days. So, but anyway, um, the only thing I wanted to bring up before we start is Reflex. Um, they had a contest on their Facebook page or in their Facebook group, and it was the the hashtag or whatever was something about civilization. So you had to post a photo. It had to have something to do with civilization. Your interpretation of a civilization, but there was guidelines. You had to follow these guidelines. And so David Addison, who does stuff for the YouTube channel for Reflex, asked me if I would help make the selections and then do a video to announce the winner. So we did that, and it came out earlier today. So I'll put a link in the show notes about to watch the video. And man, some of the pictures are really good. It was a hard thing to judge because there's a lot of good photographers in that group, and I think the winning photo got a $500 store voucher from Reflex, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, and go check out the video in the show notes. And when I did that video, I was without my computer. I was doing it just from my phone, and I did the audio from my AirPods, and I looked and sounded terrible. So forgive me for that. But yeah, it was kind of a fun thing to be part of, and um, maybe we'll do that, for our group. Maybe we'll hold some kind of a contest or something like that. I can maybe get a hold of whether it's Reflex or some company, maybe see if they can donate some prizes or whatever, and we'll hold a little competition of our own. I think that'd be cool. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Oh, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
And I'll have to say to you guys the same thing I got told by David Addison. your entry ain't gonna win. Because I was a judge, so I couldn't, I did have an entry in there, but we had to throw it out. So I don't think it would have won anyway.
Yeah, I
but
think I
anyway.
missed the contest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, when you go to the Reflex Facebook group, you can probably see it in the featured posts. Probably like an announcement for the contest with the hashtag that everybody was supposed to put on there. And you click on that hashtag and you can look through all the different pictures there, and it's pretty cool. So anyway, now, because like you said, Dave, it's spring. And what comes with spring? Flowers. So we're going to talk a little bit about flower photography. So I really like shooting flowers, and it's not. You should never be ashamed to say that, as a photographer, or if you want to be a manly guy, whatever. Don't ever be afraid to say that you take pictures of flowers, because they're freaking awesome. The detail and the textures and all that stuff that you see in these things is pretty crazy. Like, I mean, you guys have shot flowers in the past, I'm sure, but what is it that draws you to take a picture of a flower? Dwight, let's start with you.
Yeah. So, I've primarily been a landscape photographer, which to me is kind of far away. And then in doing that, when you look at a flower and you look at what's around it, there's a whole other world, down around that flower. I mean, there's insects, there's moisture, there's sun, reflecting off of certain things. It's the if you have the right lenses on your phone, it's the colorful the bokeh and the background and the textures that you get. And I think there's various ways you can do it. You get very, very close, with a macro lens or a long distance macro lens, and there's just so many different angles that you can take, even of just one flower. So I think my main point is that one of the reasons I got into photography was I was kind of just, when I walked down the street, I was going somewhere. And now that I'm in photography, I'm looking at everything that I pass and I'm trying to compose it. But now this is a different level. This is a whole world that I don't know. And it's really interesting for me to really just kind of stop and take a look at the tinier world around us. And as you said, Greg, there's some amazing flowers right now in springtime, and it's a really fun time to be taking flower shots.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like the texture and all that stuff. What draws you in Dave, like when it comes to taking a picture of a flower?
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially in spring, it's the first pop of color in a long time.
Yeah,
You know,
that's for sure.
it's like it's been when the leaves go away and everything goes away in fall. It's been, at least for Pittsburgh, 6 months since we've seen a lot of color.
I was gonna say,
And
yeah, like for
yeah,
us, like Dwight, you probably see color all year, all year round, I would say, right?
Hmm.
Being in California and that. So
Yeah, we're lucky, from
yeah,
that aspect. But yeah, spring still does bring a
oh
whole
yeah.
new bloom.
yeah,
And that and so, a lot of times it's finding the flowers where they're unexpected, because you either have people who may have planted flowers in their yard and they all of a sudden come up, or flowers where the seeds have spread in unexpected places, where it's like, oh, there's flowers on the side of the road, and obviously no one planted them there because they're pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. But they just were, maybe the seeds were spreading, and all of a sudden flowers. And you see that at least around here a lot of times with tulips, where you'll see, like, on the side of the road, just a bunch of tulips pop up.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not by anyone's house. It's not anywhere anyone would plant. They're just a matter of somehow it accidentally got put there.
yeah. Like when I walk through my neighborhood, if I'm walking, taking the dog for a walk, I can think of 3 or 4 different places where crocuses are growing like wildly along
Hmm.
around their lawn. And A crocus is it's the flower that produces saffron. So that little gold thing and I learned some of this stuff because when I wrote my book, I had to look some stuff up. But this saffron stuff, it's growing up in like on the middle of the flower or whatever. But my next door neighbor has it. But they're not really big flowers. They're kind of short, but they're really cool looking. Um, but so we're gonna take a look at some pictures here of some flowers, and now because of my issues with my computer, I didn't get any in this bunch. But Dwight and Dave have supplied pictures of these flowers, and of course, if you're listening to this on your phone, take a look at your screen. You'll be able to see them.
Well, I
Or
also
if
want
you're,
to. Oh,
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
Greg. I wanted to mention before we went into the photos, depending on where you live and what's available, there may be flower shows out and available, and
Oh yeah.
not just flower shows to buy flowers, but local garden groups that would show off flowers and give tips. And you can see, oh, here's this kind of flower, here's this, here's where how to grow it if you're interested yourself, or just kind of the beautiful displays. And I know at least here in Pittsburgh, we have the Phipps Conservatory, which is this giant Victorian greenhouse that's open to the public, and they have different displays of flowers. And right now, they're having their spring flower show,
Oh,
and
cool.
you can go in see how they have different rooms. So they have like a desert room. They have a different like different literally different areas of the world. So they have like I said, they have a rainforest area, they have a desert area, they have where different trees and flowers are planted in different areas, and you can just walk through and see them very up close.
Oh, that's cool. That
Yeah,
I
that's
could
a
spend a day in there.
Oh yeah.
yeah. I think some of the flowers you're going to show of mine today, Greg, are from Sherman Gardens in Newport Beach. My wife and I went there this weekend, and they were having, just as Greg mentioned just now, a show on bromeliads. I had no idea what those are. I still don't know. I just know that they need a tropical kind of environment, but you can still grow them here. I didn't realize we had a local bromeliad group in the town that I live in. So, these flower shows are huge, and man, there were some beautiful displays on these things. And yeah, you could spend half a day, looking at these and, getting into the people's heads that are kind of behind this passion. And it sounds like if I'm not careful, I could get into another hobby here.
Well, we don't have any flowers blooming around our property yet, but my wife brought home some orchids from the store a few days ago, and what do? The first thing I do is get my friggin' phone out and start snapping away and, different angles and all this stuff. And then uh, I had mentioned that I didn't, I was really feeling uninspired by, doing any landscape photography. And then Dwight, you said, well, what about using colored lights and things like that? So I got the light that's providing the yellow candlelight style light behind me here. It's about this long, about almost about a foot long, for those who can't see the image right now. But and it could go any color, all these different things. It's an LED light, and so I tried shining it on the orchids in purple and pink and red and green, just trying different colors, and it was really fun doing that. And I wanted to show some of those pictures today, but I like I say, I just got this computer back up and running, but so I'll maybe drop some in the Facebook group when I put this post in, um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, playing with the colors and all that stuff. But so we're going to look at some of these, and I think the way I've got them listed here is Dave, your three first, and then Dwight, yours are after that. So we'll go through these, and this one here is it's like a tree, like it's really cool, but
Yeah.
What'd you call it? It was
It's a
something
cherry.
willow.
Yeah, it's a cherry willow tree.
Yeah.
And this is actually one time I've used Apple Intelligence. So
Ah.
after taking the picture, you can actually do this even if you don't have, if you have a 15 Pro, you can still do this. Because they have added in the latest version of the operating system a way you can use Apple Intelligence to search a photo in
Oh
the
yeah.
control center.
The visual intelligence.
Visual
Yeah.
Intelligence, yeah. But I used it, pushed and hold button on the side. It showed the plant, and I hit the Google search button, and it does an image search, and I did not know that a cherry willow tree was even a thing. Now, the one thing, this is outside a restaurant. So took the picture of it, and the next one will actually be an up close picture of the flowers themselves. You can see it's already starting to lose some of the flowers down below. That is not snow on the ground. That's some petals of flowers that kind of fell already.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one problem is the iPhone a lot of times with the automatic settings will try to correct things when they shouldn't be corrected. So it kind of washed out the color of the petals. So it made it white where it had a pink cherry color to it. So I did have to go into Photomator and make some adjustments to the color to kind of bring up to more of what we saw, and also using the photographic styles. And I think I did dramatic on this one.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted
Cool.
to get this kind of an overall shot of the tree and try to not. I would love if the tree behind it, which is a bare tree, wasn't there, but any other angle would have brought other buildings, cars, and other things. And for me, it would have been kind of hard to take away that tree in the background,
Yeah.
given the amount of the items there.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been a tough one.
On
But,
the latest iOS version, if you have the latest phone, you can program the action button now to go right to the new Apple Intelligence feature on your camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you eat like it, for the 15 Pro with the action button, yeah, you can do that, or you can do it with the 16 as well. But yeah, that's pretty cool. It's good that they've added that in, and you can also. I just got interrupted by a dog. Come here. I'll edit this out, but here's Ginger.
Aww.
Yeah, Ginger looks cute.
Aww.
Yeah, and she likes to give kisses right on the mouth of all places, too. You silly net.
Of course.
Okay, go see mom. Go see mom. Go see mom. This is a YouTube audience exclusive. Okay, I guess she's gonna stay in here for a bit. But anyway, so where was I?
Well,
Yeah, the action button. Yeah, so it's really good that they've added that in. And I was also going to say that in the control center, they've added a control for that if you want to, if you want to do it that way. So there's a couple of different ways to access that. But so here's the close up of those flowers, eh, Dave?
Right. Exact same tree, just trying to, and honestly, a lot of people, nothing wrong with macro photography as I look up at Macro Macmillan up there. But, when you're trying to take photos of plants or flowers, like I said, this is the exact same plant. It's just a matter of far away and close up. Try different types of shots. Just don't think it's a flower I have to do macro.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would say don't shy away from macro, but try different things that you can try. Like I said, you get a completely different feel, especially with the willow tree, with the weepingness of the branches. Gives you a different feel for it. And you have this up close look where you have all the details with the flowers inside. Again, I had to do some adjustments with the color because the way the iPhone, because I used the default camera app, it did the Apple magic and made everything white.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's trying to think that these things are
Mhm.
supposed to be white, so it's making them
Yeah.
white or something. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
Dave,
all.
I think
Go ahead,
I'm
Dwight.
sorry, Greg.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. It would have been great just to show the picture of the tree from afar, but there's a whole new world when you get closer,
Mhm.
and you're showing that here.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
And I've done this with like flower blooming trees as well. Like last spring, the one that comes to my mind is there's a conservation area with all these different kinds of trees, and they're labeled with little phrases on them to tell you what kind of trees they are and whatnot. And um, a macro photo, I don't think would have done the flowers on that tree any justice. I think it's a shot more like this, where you just get close enough you can see the flowers, and then
Mhm.
a bunch of them together. It kind of does the flowers a little more justice. I think it kind of you can see what kind they are more so than if you were too close, you might not be able to tell what they are. So that's a good approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and there's good
also,
composition on this too, right? The three
no,
the
thanks.
3 points, you have the two on the vertical on the left, and then you have the triangle.
Hmm.
See on the
Well,
right.
okay,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the other nice thing is when you get physically close, like let's call it a manual zoom, you actually walk up and get close to the plant, you get that natural bokeh.
Yeah.
This isn't portrait mode where and it's gotten better with the bokeh, but getting up close, you have that in focus up close, and it's a little out of focus behind it just because I'm this close.
Hmm.
And that adds a nice little extra depth to photos instead of everything being in focus.
Yes, exactly. And one more thing, just while we're on this shot here too, is if there's an aroma coming off those flowers, you're going to be in the moment. You're going to be taking in that nice smell of the flowers, right? Now, I don't know if they had one or I don't know, but I wasn't there. But if you ever come across a tree that's flowering like this, and if it does have an aroma, oh man, that must it
Hmm.
just being in the moment would be really something. So your last one here, Dave. This is cool.
Yeah, these are someone's front yard, and they had it set up where they had the tree stump in front with some of the mushrooms growing out of it. And I just like how the looking at the angle of the rhododendron kind of going up to the right on a diagonal.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of looks like it's growing out of the log, even though not exactly, but it has that flow up there. Now, this one I did a little extra work in Photomator because it can do layers, and it did a really good job of just picking the flowers. But I want the flowers and the log kind of as one object, so I adjusted the layer. Luckily, the log it's a pretty it's a straight line and a curve, so very easy to do with the finger on the phone
Hmm.
to add it in. And then I just did the inverse of it to get the background and everything else. And so the background I desaturated a bit, took a little bit out of focus, and just to give that, like I said, give that extra depth to the image. So I was 10, 15 feet away from the
Oh yeah.
flowers here.
Hmm.
I didn't want to get too much on someone's yard.
And you took this
And
with the 5X then?
I'm trying to remember. Let's see here. 120 millimeters.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, now, like I said, I could have walked up, got a little closer, and maybe got a macro, but, it's like, I like I said, I like the flow and doing it in Photomator to kind of give it because it was too far away. Really, when you're that far away, it's hard to get that depth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's kind of flattened, so that's why I tried to edit it and kind of make a depth on its own. I didn't overly put the back out of focus, but I took down the clarity, I took down the details a little bit on that.
Yeah, I think you did a great job with that too. It really isolates the flowers away from the background, like visually, and the log in the foreground, it does just that. It gives a nice foreground effect. Um, and that's something that I mentioned in my book is respecting people's property when you're taking a walk and wanting to shoot flowers. If it's city property, hey, it's open season. But if it's somebody's front yard, then I tend to be very careful not to step on their property or anything. So that's good.
Yeah, and the 5X does an amazing job.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and this was 5 o'clock at night, so it was still an hour and a half till sunset, but it wasn't a bright day. So it did, it was bright enough that the fact it was 5X, you're further away, you're using the zoom, really didn't affect it. Now, if this was an hour later at 6 o'clock,
Hmm.
it would have had an issue. I think
Oh, yeah.
the light just wouldn't have quite been there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it worked out really well. And so, Dwight, you got some macros here. This looks like a tulip of some sort.
Yeah, I'm not sure really what that is, but I think this is an example. I think I had the long range macro from Moment on this one, but what I really like about that lens was what it does to the background. It does have a lot less of a focal plane, I think, than the reflex 240 millimeter, because you're a little bit, there's only certain parts of that are in focus, but then it just kind of walks out softly. I edited this in Photoshop, so my process for editing flowers is really, the first thing I like to do is just clean up the distracting elements around the flower. Sometimes there's little specks or dots or dirt or whatever. I mean, that's my first step. And then for this one, I really wanted to kind of maintain the softness and not oversharpen it, because it just I think it looks better that way.
Yeah. And picking finding certain edges of the petals to focus on, I think that's really key. When you're up this close, right? Because or right in the center, you have some veins on the one petal, but also just some of the textured surface on another one. And I think those are really cool to show too. Like showing the texture of the flower really, uh, gives you a good idea of what it's made of. And
Yeah, and for those of you that have not done this type of photography yet, my process is using a third-party app, camera app, which is usually reflex, and then I put the focus peaking on along with the lens on my camera. So as Greg said, it's good to focus on a specific part of the flower, and then with the focus peaking, you can kind of see as you're bringing it in and out where the camera is focusing, and you really don't know what you have until you look at it after you've taken it. So yeah, you can pick what you want to focus on, and I think on this one it's pretty along the center line there, I think, of that flower.
yeah. Dave, have you done? I don't know if you've got any pictures on your camera roll. Have you done many macro shots with your new iPhone?
Not really a lot with the new one. I have some from the older phones.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have. Also, older before that was built in with Camera Plus, because
Right,
that had
yeah.
a built-in macro feature.
Yeah, I was asking because I was wondering if you'd noticed any difference, in the quality and the way that the phone renders a macro, going from, like, say, the 13 Pro to the 16 Pro. I've noticed a gradual change going from the 14 Pro Max was the first one that I had that did it, and then to the 15, and then to the 16. I've seen a gradual increase in quality in the macro images that the phone produces. Like, say, for example, with the 14, it would be you could see it was a really processed look to it, whereas with the 16, it's a lot more subtle. It's a lot more natural looking. It's not as crunchy, with the Apple goodness that they do. So I mean, it's really improving how it does that. So I just thought I'd ask and see if you noticed any difference there or not. But
When I first got the phone, I did just try and experiment. It's like, okay, I'm going to take a macro just to see what it looks like.
yeah,
And I did notice that it is crisper and it picked up a lot more details. Now,
yeah,
also a little bit more noise because when you get that close, it happens.
yeah,
And again, I'm using the built-in camera app. I'm not using a third party and I'm not using an add-on lens.
right,
So,
yeah, and I think the built-in camera does a pretty good job of macro. I took a couple of shots of these orchids in the other room here. Um, I tried some with a lens, and I tried some with the Apple macro function. And boy, oh boy, the Apple camera, like the macro in the Apple camera, really did a good job. Like even with the
Yeah.
fall off with the bokeh and that, like it really did well. So I'm going to experiment with that a little bit too as spring goes on here. But right now, there's nothing in bloom other than, like I said, these crocuses and there's another flower called a snowdrop. You'll see one of those in my recent photos. But those are the only things that I've seen that are in bloom. Now we'll have trilliums here at some point, hopefully this month. There are the province of Ontario. That's our official flower. So we can't pick those, but you can take as many pictures as them as you want. But I'm going to experiment with the Apple camera a little bit and just to see how it does. I probably won't like it as much as the lenses, but I mean it's still pretty good.
yeah. Now, one thing about Dwight's photo here, you can see, you think of grain as more wood, or trees, but
Oh
you
yeah,
can actually see kind of grain in the petals themselves
yeah,
and kind of going different directions, giving it a little extra texture that way.
yeah.
I think
I
this is
get
a
you.
prickly pear flower off the prickly pear cactus.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna fire up my visual intelligence and point it at my screen and see if it comes up with anything.
Yeah, I found the flower and that's what it's telling me.
Okay, I'm just searching with Google here. Um, so, uh, Dave, when you mentioned grain, you're not talking like grain as in noise, right? You're talking
Right.
grain as in the flow of the uh, the like the veins in the petal or whatever, like all
Exactly.
that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah. Because you notice the petal closest is kind of going from bottom right to upper left.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can actually see the way the structure of the petal itself showing
Right.
grain there.
Yeah, and my visual intelligence is saying, I think for the most part, that this is um, well, it could be prickly pear or it could be uh, cactus nuance or jasper nuance or jasper nance, I think it's pronounced. It's hard to say, but it does look like the prickly pear that came up in the search results.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's cool. And I like the color, the subtle pastel-y colors of it. Yeah, it's really
Yeah, I
really
wanted to
neat.
be real careful and not, over saturated. Try to keep it natural.
Yeah, you
You
could
learn
go
that over time,
overboard.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go overboard with flowers and make them look nothing like they are.
Right.
Um, especially when I put the colored light on these they're pure white orchids that we have, and the only color is in the middle where there's different, the yellow and red in the middle. But um, yeah, so I'm assuming that these are prickly pear cactuses, Dwight, or
Yeah.
cacti.
Same flower. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. This is more of a landscape shot with, I think, with flowers in it. But yeah, the flowers add really kind of a whole new dimension, I think, to your scene. And this is why I really kind of, I think the flowers are what makes this. So I think, from a photography perspective, I think having, especially in a landscape photo, having a good, an interesting foreground, an interesting midground, and an interesting background is critical. And I think if these flowers and cactus weren't here, for me, it wouldn't be as exciting as of a photo because, I go down here a lot. So I know what this coastline looks like. It might look nice for somebody else, but, for me, I have the flowers kind of in the lower third, adds a new dimension, adds color, and I thought it worked well with the scene. So,
And like Greg mentioned about the colors of the flowers are more of a pastel look. So it's not popping like, like you would if it was a deep red or a bright red. So it's
right.
not distracting that way, but yeah, it adds a nice color, and the fact that you have, like you said about layers, because you have the flowers in the bottom third, you have the palm trees question mark.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. In the
I wasn't sure.
in the
I wasn't
midground.
sure palm or coconut.
No coconuts out here, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay, going up on the left, and then the sky, which cloudy sky, but blue kind of peeking in, so you have all that texture going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was a raw photo, and I did do some dodging and burning in the clouds to bring out the kind of the lighter areas and the darker areas for contrast. Um, but yeah, just I think that's part of the fun of editing is just trying to tie everything together.
Yeah. And like Dave's shot of the tree, this one here, uh, it shows these flowers in their basically in their natural habitat or natural
Right.
environment. Like, okay, yes, with Dave's picture, there was a stone wall in behind, but it showed the flowers in the tree that that they exist in, and then with this one here with all the cactus, it shows these flowers where they exist, how it gives you an idea of how they exist and why they exist. So all that along with the layered structure of the photo, it really shows well.
I think that's a good point, Greg, because a lot of people just walk by this, right? And they're like, "Oh, look at the pretty flowers," and they go on and they see the next whatever they're looking at.
Yeah.
But you really don't get the essence of what the flower is unless you get up close to it. I think that's the beauty of flower photography.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate it more, right?
Hmm.
It makes you appreciate the flowers more for what they are.
Yep.
Yeah. This looks like a pea pod.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that one up as well. Um, let's see. It
But it's
is
an awful
being
hairy one.
Tibouchina erviliana,
Say
or
that 3 times real fast.
yeah. I just like the detail on this thing. Uh, for me, photography is light has to be part of it, right? And as I approach these photos, it's kind of, where's the light coming from? How is that going to make it interesting? And I like the detail, the hairs on there. Again, edited in Photoshop, so pretty cleaned up and kind of cropped in. And yeah, just a simple whatever that thing is. I thought it was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we're not going to try to pronounce it again because that's a
Yeah.
mouthful. But yeah, it just goes to show you there's so many different types of flowers and plants, and yeah, we'll throw plants in here too because um, like a cactus plant, if it doesn't have a flower, it's every bit as cool to look at and enjoy and appreciate as a flower is. Like we have some plants in our front window. One's like we call it a spider plant. I don't know if that's what it's really called or not. But it has these green, multicolored green long leaves on it. We have a cactus plant on there, and it's just tall, skinny um, cactus shoots on it. We have an aloe vera plant or like an aloe plant. We have a couple of Hoya plants with those big, thick, waxy leaves. And I have a lot of fun shooting those things, just because the texture and sometimes the way the light hits it, like you did with this one, Dwight. When the light hits it, it kind of makes for a really interesting photo. So, if there's anything to take away from any of this, uh, pay attention to the light, because when you're taking a photograph, you're painting with light, and the light could make all the difference in the world. Now, in Dave's photo of the trees on the flower, or the flowers on the tree, the close-up shot, it was on an overcast day, and I think that really makes for an interesting shot too, because let's just go back to it here. There they are there. Um, it's a nice, soft, even, diffused light.
Right.
Had this been in the middle of the day with harsh sunlight, I don't know that it would make as good of a photo.
Those whites might have been blown out.
Exactly. I think the only time of day I would want to take a picture of this tree would be either early morning or late afternoon, like early evening, when the sun is really low in the horizon and the light is much warmer. If it was early morning and the sun's just coming up and you got a bit of sun coming on it, maybe there could be some dew on these flowers with all those water spots and everything else. That could really make an interesting shot. But I don't know how close this is to where you live, Dave, but it may be worth exploring while they're still in bloom, if you get that kind of an opportunity. Like I say, I don't know how close it is to home for you.
Yeah, it's not that close, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I shouldn't say it's not close and far away. Is dependent on a lot of times where you live.
Yeah.
It's around 10 miles away. But
Okay,
it's kind of out of the way. So it's a place. It's right outside the restaurant we normally go for have brunch with Ruth's dad at,
Oh, yeah.
because it's not too
Okay.
far away from his house.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so I think you got the right shot at the right time. Any idea how long they stay in bloom?
No idea, but like I said, you can see the petals are already falling.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going to be very long.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a tree a couple of doors down from my place that it's a magnolia tree, and it has the most brightest, beautiful blooms for about a week, and then they start falling down. So when I see them in bloom, I'm gonna go over and start snapping pictures of it. I know the young ladies, her parents. I know the people that live there. I know their daughter, and she said that she loves it, or that they love it when people stop to take pictures of that tree because they're so proud of it. So I know I won't have an issue just walking right up to it and snapping away. But yeah, it's really cool. And time of day, I think, is key. Overcast day, you can't go wrong. You're going to get color. You're going to get you're going to get color, but you're also going to get texture and everything else with the nice diffused light. And as far as sunlight goes, I would avoid direct, real harsh sunlight. But just while I'm on the subject of light, backlit is really cool when you're taking pictures of flowers. Put the sun behind them and let the sun come through, and then you might have, if you have a big enough petal on the flower, you could have a shadow casting on it from a flower further away, that sort of thing. There's all kinds of things, and a lot of this stuff's in my book. I've just given away a whole pile of stuff that's in my book, but there's a lot more in it too. But yeah, so these are really great images of flowers, and it makes me upset that I didn't get my own in. But we got one more here from Dwight.
What's
and
nice
it's-
about these, flowers come and they go, right? And every time you take a picture, a photo, it's just somewhere within the life cycle, which is kind of neat.
Yeah,
Greg, this one's backlit, I think.
yeah.
I think this is an example of the backlit. And then you have some background there, which is kind of interesting, almost like it's pointing at it. But I'm not sure I'm not sure what this is. I mean, this garden has so many exotic plants and stuff, but
This looks like the leaf on a Japanese maple, but
it is a Japanese maple.
is it okay?
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of cool. You can see the veins and stuff running through there, and a little bit of detail,
Yeah.
on the stem, and then it falls
Yeah.
off into a shadow.
Mhm.
It's again, it was something I wasn't sure what I was going to get until I looked at it.
Hmm.
Well, you also have the shadows behind on the leaf itself.
Hmm.
So you have the shadows projecting on the leaf, giving, like, again, a little more texture. But there's so much texture with the individual parts of the leaf itself, with the small veins going through it.
Hmm.
And it looks like fingers. It comes from the main stem of the leaf, and then it starts to branch out in all these different sections. And it just looks like a bunch of fingers spreading out.
Yeah.
Um, I even for the book, I even researched, what these parts are and what they do and all that stuff, and it all has to do with um, the soaking up of the light, and then it goes through the veins into the bigger ones, and then into the main one, and then eventually down it works its way down into the roots, like the moisture and everything else. And um, I forget what the whole process is called, but it's just really cool.
Photosynthesis.
That's exactly. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really cool. I love taking pictures of plants. I mean, it's probably my second favorite thing to do next to landscape. I'm a landscape guy by heart, but I'm a real sucker for flowers and plants and that sort of
Yeah, I
thing.
think I'm
So
with you there on that, Greg. I would say
yeah,
landscape, macro flowers, and would like to get into a little more street. But yeah,
yeah. Well, Dave, what are your favorites? Like, I think you're more of a landscape guy, really.
I would say landscape or cityscape.
Cityscape, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also, a lot of times the way cityscape, I'm going to combine two, cityscape inside of landscape.
yeah,
Because, I mean, you do have places where building on top of building, you can do layering in different patterns and shapes, but it's also neat to see a modern building in with like woods not too far away from behind it, where you can see the city itself, where it's actually in nature also.
yeah. I didn't see this till now, but
Ah,
Dale Lotherington's in the house. If that was Australian, it would hurt you if you get close. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, Dale, because we had a cactus up there at one time. But if you're referring to like the red leaf that we just saw, then I mean, hey, you never know. You never know what you're going to get in Australia. That's for sure.
uh,
that one that I just showed you and that Dale's referring to, that actually opens up into a purple flower.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's the start of a flower, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
well,
These,
pretty much, if you get close to anything in Australia, it's going to try to kill you.
It's gonna come alive and that one might even chase you.
an Australian could be dangerous if you got too close. uh, well, I don't know. Can you think of any other tips, guys, that could help people with their flower photography?
Just get out and start shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I have one last tip that would um, I'm giving so much stuff away from my book,
Well, wait a
but
minute. I
it's
will say this. It's one thing to hear it in a podcast, but the book is something you can refer back to.
yes, that's true. Um, what it is it's okay. So if you have a um, like a macro lens from Moment, or I think Sandmark has these. I'm
Reflex.
gonna have to put the bug into reflexes here to make these available somehow, and that is a diffuser.
Mm.
Some of these macro lenses, you can get a little diffuser that goes on, and if you are in bright sunlight, the diffuser will actually come out and cover the part of the flower that you're trying to get the picture of, and just diffuse the light a little bit so that it makes it a little a little less harsh, and the highlights and shadow, less contrast, I guess you could say. So so that's just another tip that I wanted to throw out there. Like, if anybody has those lenses, and if you're ever wondering what this, semi-clear round thing is that came with one of the macro lenses, well, that's what it's for. And it also helps hold the flower still while, like, because some of these things are so delicate that it doesn't take anything but a slight breeze to make it move around. So with this diffuser, it could cup over the flower and hold it still for you while you're trying to get some shots, and they'll be a lot sharper and crisper. So
Greg, I can actually show that if you want.
Okay, sure.
No.
Yeah, so here's a macro lens. And then if you put it on your phone, it would go, whatever lens. And the diffuser that Greg's talking about just snaps on the front of the lens. So if this is the flower, you would basically cup the flower like this. And then it can diffuse the light. It can hold the flower a little bit more steady, and then you can just kind of work it up and down until your focus peaking is where you want it.
Yeah. So that's basically how it works, and I think they're a very valuable tool to have in your toolkit for sure. And Dale Lotherington has just another really great tip, and that is to bring a spray water bottle for droplets for a creative shot. Little droplets on flowers are just, they just really add to the composition and to the image itself, because they can reflect things in them and all that stuff. And that's a really good
That's
tip.
a great idea.
Yeah. And as Dale said, it's bring, don't. You're not being a water bottle.
Oh yeah, I just so sad.
Being a spray water bottle is a completely different thing that we don't talk about.
Well, if you don't want to do it in public anyway, you could get arrested. So that's a great tip, Dale. So I guess that's about it for flower photography. I'm excited for spring. Not so much the stick season part, between the snow and the snert, as I call it, snow and dirt put together, and then you got nothing. There's no leaves on the trees yet. I don't think they're even budding yet, just because it's been so cold and miserable around here. But when the flowers do start coming out, man, oh man, that's a good time to be a mobile photographer or a photographer of any kind.
Oh yeah, and it does hit different times for everyone too.
Oh yeah, sure.
Even though, Greg, your mind, a lot of times our weather is very similar.
Yeah.
It's just enough different that we get the spring a little bit earlier than you do.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Scott Baker wants to know, will a water bottle help me get a 30-second shot? Dale, do you think you could pipe up for that one? That's a little inside joke with the admins of Shane Mostyn's Facebook group. Every time we turn around, we're trying to think of some way to bring a 30-second shot into the conversation. But I would think that if you had a water bottle, you could, and I'm serious, you could come up with a 30-second shot with that. If you use something like Reheld and sprayed the water, then you could maybe get some water flow motion going on in your shot of a flower.
Well, if you drink a lot, as Dale says, it might take you 30 seconds to spray the bottle, in between falling down or whatever you're doing. So
yeah, it depends on how much you drink, that's for sure. That was odd. Well, I guess that's it for flower photography. I think it's if you haven't tried it, go and do it. I think you'll find you get yourself lost in a garden, and I know when I there's the local arena in town here where they play hockey, and that out behind that, between the building and the bay, um, there's a flower garden maintained by the local horticultural society, and they've got all kinds of different flowers in there. And every time we go down there, we take the dogs down there for a walk, and then because every time we do, I take my lenses and I just get lost in there for at least 20 minutes to half an hour. And I could over and over again. It doesn't matter how many times I can go there. I could still just stop and get lost in it. And uh, one last tip by Dale: smoke machine. Small LED RGB lights could be cool creative tools for the photography style. Yeah, I'd love to get one of those little smoke machines. I'll put a link to this in the show notes. Shane Moston did I think he did, pretty sure he did a review on one of these things, and it's pretty cool the effects that you can get with this. Uh, I'm pretty sure he did one. I'll have to look. I know he got a new video out today I haven't seen yet, but I'll be looking at it tonight. But anyway, but yeah, just a little smoke machine can put smoke in amongst the flowers and really give you a nice, cool effect too. And then if you have like an RGB LED light, that can just the possibilities would be endless. So yeah, that's cool.
And it depends on what you're smoking too. That could add to it.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but I'm not going to go there. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to our recent photos. Um, I rushed to put these together, so the order that they're in is, I think I've got mine, and then Dave's, and then Dwight's, then mine, and Dave's, and Dwight's. So let me see here. I got to get back to my screen sharing. There we go. And add it to the stage. Okay, so here we go. So these are snowdrops, they're called. And this one here, I had two pictures of this same flower. And all I did was I rotated my phone like, just a few inches around it. And this picture had a green grassy background. The other picture had like a brown background of twigs and sticks and stuff. So basically, two complete different types of image of the same flower just by rotating your phone around. So there's another little tip: move around and check your composition out. But these ones we're just walking the dogs as we do, and I didn't clean it up like you did with yours, Dwight. I still have the dirt on it. These things are only like a matter of 2 inches high, so they're you can see the blades of grass in there. They're very close to the ground. And I just I think I used Luminar Neo or not Neo, but Luminar Mobile to process this, and I didn't do a whole lot to it other than kind of bring the greens up a bit and sharpen it a wee bit. Other than that, not a whole lot done to it really.
Yeah, I mean, the fact I kind of like the dirt being kept on there because it's there's dirt everywhere outside,
Oh yeah,
and the fact that the dirt is almost next to the water bubble, the water droplet on there,
right.
so it actually helps give a little bit of size. It
Oh
gives the
yeah,
clues for size there too.
yeah. I never thought of
I
that,
mean,
but you're
unless
right.
that's the biggest water droplet anyone's ever seen, that it's relatively small there.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
and with the blades of grass in the background, that's kind of a bit of a clue as well.
yeah.
And it was kind of breezy. Like it took a few shots to get one that was actually clear. And I should say too, I guess I shot it in RAW with reflex uh, with the 240 and the 200 millimeter macro attachment.
And that, like Dwight was saying earlier, with giving hints about the diffuser, a lot of times when you're this close, you breathe when you breathe in and out can cause
Mm,
movement on the leaves too.
yeah.
So it's one of
Yeah.
those things of, okay, I know the shot I want to get. I'm going to be really close. Hold my breath for half a minute.
Yep. Oh,
Hold my breath for like 10 seconds.
I do that when I do a macro shot.
Yeah.
I hold my breath until I get the shutter pressed, and then I can breathe. So
Just don't push it too much, because otherwise,
yeah,
boom.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that a diffuser on the 240 millimeter lens would be a pretty big diffuser, I think, right? Because of the focal length.
yeah, yeah. It would be.
Yeah.
But
I- yeah, go ahead, Greg.
well, I was just gonna say you could always use a like a big,
Sure.
one that they use for outdoor shoots and that.
Yeah.
Not an umbrella, but kind of like a reflector, I guess.
hmm
But
Yeah, when I first looked at this, I thought they were Christmas lights. I mean, it's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's hanging in the bushes like that. But yeah, and I think what Dave said as far as, kind of leaving it in its natural state so it's not perfect. I think the dirt and the flaws in that are captured there make it interesting, especially underneath that leaf up on the top right. It makes it it shows some depth and character there. Yeah, no, that's a good
Mhm.
shot. Good observation on your walk.
Yeah, thanks. Well, like I say, these and the crocus ones are the only ones that are in bloom right now. So um, when I see them, I think, oh, there's flowers, and then of course I half the time I don't have my phone with me. But so Dave, we got one of is it a pond or a lake?
That's a lake. So that's a
Okay,
lake photo. And actually, both my photos are lake photos this time.
okay.
But yeah, this was just out going around the lake, and I liked kind of the layering, that kind of similar to what Dwight had, where you have the rocks down below, the lake with the reflection. The reflection turned out pretty good. It was a pretty calm day, and I did, again, using Photomator and their selection tool. I kind of overemphasized the sky. It wasn't quite that dramatic in person, but I wanted to give that, because there was texture to the sky. I wanted to give that a little extra texture going on there, and
Hmm.
also as a nice contrast to the completely calm lake going on there.
Yeah, one of the first things that grabs my eye is the symmetry, and I love how you've spaced that out in the middle of the frame, so it's equal distances, kind of on the top and the bottom on the right hand side.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's just pure symmetry. Great reflection
Oh,
there.
thanks.
Again, as you mentioned, you've got, as I believe, any good landscape photo is going to have a foreground, a midground, and a background. You've got all those elements there. And I would say the sky looks like you used some dehaze or some type of
Mm-hmm.
slider for
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That is an artistic uh, kind of uh, move, which is I would say at this point, just seeing your photos over time is typical for you, and
Yeah.
I think it adds to this
Thanks.
shot nicely.
Yeah, this was an early morning show. I just double checked the time. This was 7:45 in the morning.
Okay.
So it was pretty early in the day, and you can see there's one evergreen tree just to the left.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
has that little bit of green compared to nothing else having leaves yet.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I'm a sucker for the oranges and the reds in there.
Mhm.
I love that combination. And then, there's a lot of green in the reflection
Mhm.
as well, which to me tells me the water was probably green, and that's just more of a shadow from the midground there. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I really like this one.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's reminiscent of, I think it was it the last show you had a reflection shot with where you deliberately desaturated the trees on the top and
Yes.
left the
Yes.
ground in color. What
Same same
this
lake.
is
Actually,
yeah, okay.
Same lake. Yeah. They're
But you
different
didn't do
spot.
that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't do that here. This is just the way it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's kind of cool that it naturally looks the way you um, did it in post last time.
Yeah.
So, like Dwight said, with the colors of the oranges and the reds in that eye, that really draws my eye. But what I really like about this is the reflection of the trees where it's right close to the ground. That's where the reflection is um, so visible, and before it starts to fade off
Mm-hmm.
into the water below. It's just a nice contrast, and the symmetry really does a good job of it there, and the layers. The foreground. You got the layer of the rocks, then you got the layer of the reflections, and then the layer of the bush and the trees and that, and then the sky in the background, and it's just a well layered image. So, um, good on you for that one.
Thanks, man.
And Dwight, you have a B.
I have a B, so I think I'm gonna be consistent on this one
Womp womp.
this week. Yeah, this was a this was this is in my front yard, so we have lavender bushes, and there was probably 200 bees swarming this thing. So
Oh man,
I was
really?
really just kind of risking getting stung. I did use the 10x macro lens by Moment with a diffuser on it. They didn't like that diffuser. This little guy kind of hung out. But yeah, I was lucky. Again, it's a happy mistake. I just happened to see the focus peaking just go along his back, and I got it. So edited in Photoshop, and I think I cleaned it up a little bit. I brought it over into Topaz AI to sharpen the subject a little bit, and I brought it back into Photoshop as a layer, just kind of reduce the opacity, just to keep it from looking too sharp. Really, the focal point on this is kind of at the beginning of the wings on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Through the center of the body, the eyes and everything kind of fall off out of the focus range, and then the foot next to he or she's head, the fine hairs along that were in focus. So I kind of like that. I played up. I took the greens down a little bit in the background. I thought they were distracting. I brought the oranges and yellows up a little bit on the bee as they were a little bit washed out. And I think I brightened the luminance a little bit on the deeper purple flowers on the lavender plant as they were kind of muddy. So I was able to get some of the color out of those. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like you said, I love the fact that you can actually see the detail, almost the sub detail of the wing. So you can see if you zoom in, you can see the detail of the wings, but inside the individual cell, I know they're not cells, but the individual cells, you can see it's either interference from the light or it's the actual texture of the wing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the fact that there's that specific point that's in focus and everything else kind of just falls off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the these 10x micro or macro lenses, the focus area is so small, and I think in comparison with the Reflex 240, if I was able to pull it off with that one, more of the bee would have been in focus. Would you agree, Greg? It's a larger focal field, I think. But
yeah, a little larger depth of field.
Yeah, my second photo will be with the Reflex, and I think we'll be able to see a more detail in the bee. But I think for this one, I think it adds a little bit of mystery to it when only a portion of the bee is in focus.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to get, to get just the right focus point, especially like these things move quick. It's not like like unless he was actually sitting still, but I
No,
have to
these things
doubt that
are
they was.
no, they sit for about 3 or 4 seconds. So I had to move in really
Yeah,
quick, and I was trying not to get stung. So there's so many of them that weren't real happy that I was
yeah,
prodding their lavender plants.
yeah, yeah. And because they move quickly, it's hard to get just the right focus point.
Hmm.
No matter what you try, even you can have focus peaking on, and sometimes it doesn't matter. They're moving
Hmm.
because that plane of or the depth of field is so small. Um, but I do like where you got the focus points in this one with the wing, because that has a lot of detail in it, like you were saying, Dave, and then with the leg, um, but then carry that over to that one dark purple flower right on the right hand side there.
Hmm.
Even some of that is caught into the focus plane
Hmm.
and really kind of adds to it.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, that's a good one too. And the square crop does it really well. Um, so
Yeah, I was able to put in the lower third on the right
yeah,
side and the bottom, which to me kind of adds some mystery as to what the bee's next step is, right? You can't really, if it was in the lower left, you would have more of an idea, but we have no idea what's on its mind right now.
yeah, that's right. And so when you're looking at these on your phone, watching, like looking at the images on your phone in the podcast app, you'll see that everything's a square image. And if it's not a square crop like this, then you'll see some, blurriness either above or below or side by side, depending on the orientation of the image. I have to do that in order for them to show properly. So, um, they showed fine before, but in iOS 18 they started screwing them up. So um, I don't know. I've bugged Apple about it a couple of times with my feedback from the beta on my other phone, but nothing seems to be working so far. But anyway, so yeah, yeah, it's a great shot of a bee, and
Thanks,
and I
guys.
do like I do like the way that you've brought the color of the orange and whatnot up and kind of diffused the green a little bit. That really helps with the determining what the subject really is.
Yeah, it was too,
Aside from
the
the
green was
focus.
too much. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was too much back there.
yeah. Okay, so why isn't this going to the next one? There we go. Okay, so yeah, this is my second one. I was again, we were walking the dogs, and we went to this place. It's this conservation area I mentioned earlier, where they label all the trees and what kind they are. And there's a grove where there's a path that walks through a grove, and it's got all these different types of trees and whatnot there. And this was a birch. I'm not sure if it was any specific type of birch, but it was just some birch. So uh, it had all over the trunk and on the branches. It had these little bits of bark that was just curling out. And this one kind of caught my eye because it had this crack in the curl, and it just kind of the title kind of came into my mind about something about a cracked curl or something like this. I forget how I labeled it when I posted it on Glass and that, but yeah, I got lost with this tree for about 10 minutes, taking pictures
Hmm.
of different curls in the bark and whatnot, and I used the Reflex 240 with I think it was the 300 millimeter attachment on this one. And so you could see that there is a considerable bit of depth of field to it as far as a macro image goes from a phone. Um, and It was late in the afternoon. The sun was actually peeking out a bit, and the warm light was hitting this thing. And I thought, oh, it was really nice the way it was lighting it up. And just uh, just a shot of some birch bark.
Yeah, I mean, the other nice thing, like I said, we're kind of kind of mentioning layering again, but you have the very first part, which, like I said, has that beautiful grain going on. But in the background, I know it's pareidolia. It almost looks like a face in the back
Yeah.
with the two eyeballs and the nose. And like I said, this is the when you're out there taking a walk, doing whatever, and you're not under a time crunch. Like you said, take the time to look at various parts. Like you said, you took there was probably so much on this tree, so many, little intricacies. It
Mhm.
would have been hard to say, okay, I'm going to take a photo of one thing.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And also, a lot of times you'll take a photo of something and you won't see the extra detail or the thing until it's later on you have time to look at it with fresh eyes. When
Yeah.
you're not thinking of, well, I'm walking the dog now and I have to keep an eye on this and what time is this and what time are we going to get home and what are we going to do then and what else do I have to, when you can take time and just kind of look at what you have there is a lot of times a really good thing to just to take time on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that face now, Dave. I see the two eyes and the nose, and I also see three faces: the dark areas, and then the eyes above them. At least on the one of almost looks like a tiki carving or something like that. Yeah, Greg,
Yeah.
this is super cool. I like here back to the grain of what we're taking the photo of. Right, this is not only interesting in the subject, but it also helps with the flow of the viewer and the perception of this thing. It kind of forces you to bring bring yourself across the whole image and kind of walks you through it. Um, was this the 240?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think here's an example of there's a lot much more in focus here than I got on the B. So you can see it's got more of a larger area, I think, on the focal plane. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't even see that face up there in the top corner until you guys mentioned it. I was totally oblivious of that, but now I can't unsee it.
Oh
Well, I'll
yeah,
say,
it's freaky.
but oh yeah, yeah, cut it out. Crop it so you see more of the face there.
Yeah.
Go to a conspiracy subreddit or something, and
Yeah. I know where you're going with this.
and say, "This is the photo they don't want you to see."
Yeah. Yeah, really. You could say that it could be Groot's ancestor or something. Uh,
You can look at this thing and it almost, looks like that this front part is either something that face person or whatever is wearing, or that person is actually unraveling.
oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, now I'm going to start looking for faces in all these pictures.
Happy accident, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, Dave, here's your second one.
Yep. Taken actually same day as the other one, same lake, just a little, maybe a mile away. And this is a man-made lake. This whole park area was a Great Depression era project. So you can see the kind of the spillway right there where it drains into on the other side of the road. And again, this is I just love the way that looked with the spillway there. The fact that it was a little, you can see the wind picking up a little bit here because you can see some texture on the lake itself, and the papa green of the grass just to the left. And really, again, you can see the trees outside the evergreens. No, nothing coming up yet, but the grass does give you that green feeling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I want to say that in sailing terms, the water texture there is considered to be cat paws. Is what we call them while sailing. And I was trying to remember the actual. Those start at a certain wind speed, and I forget what they were. I forget what they are, but yeah, this is interesting. I think for me, I would. Does that water ever come over? Do they drain it? Does that flow get bigger at any chance? Because I'm seeing long exposure potential there.
Well,
Nice, calm, peaceful, serene scene. That's definitely an old bridge over there.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually the main entrance to the park on the right hand side. So that's if you kind of follow where the off to the right where the lake goes,
Hmm.
that will go back to where that first picture was taken.
Okay.
So it's more of a long lake than it is a wide lake.
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
you want to think about it that way, yeah. And this is all built like I said, 1930s. So it really doesn't flow that much more. I
Okay.
think they kind of let it do its own level. The lake is definitely recreational only. There's no power plant or anything else, dam put
Hmm.
onto it. In fact, if you look just in front of the lake on the right, I'm sorry, just in front of the bridge on the right, you can see a kayaker over there
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
with
Okay.
the yellow dots.
So
And
there's
they were,
fishing and that kind
oh
of
yeah,
stuff in there.
there was fishing all along here. There's there's boat launches. At the very end, there's a boathouse where you can rent kayaks and canoes and other things too.
Hmm.
How far is the fall on that at the foreground there?
Um,
And
15,
where
20
does it
feet.
go?
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to because the road, the main road that I'm on, where I'm taking it from, is kind of giving a buffer to the lake.
Hmm.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and on the other side of the road is kind of a little bit of a swampy area. So I think it's just kind of
Oh,
going there.
Okay.
okay. That's cool.
Interesting.
Because if you notice, there's hills. This thing's ringed by hills.
Hmm.
So any rain, snow, anything that's a runoff goes straight down here to the valley. So they have to make sure no flooding.
I think the state that you live in should be called Pennsylvania
Oh,
Our
boom, boom,
part,
boom,
yes.
boom. Another one.
because you guys got a lot of hills there,
Oh
and
yeah,
I mean a lot.
yeah,
Like even the city of Pittsburgh there's a lot of
yeah,
hills in it.
yeah.
But yeah.
And the idiots decided to build too much on the side of the hill instead of the top or the bottom of the hill, like
Oh really?
most places would. Yes.
Oh, that's crazy.
We
But
have
yeah,
that out
no,
here, plus earthquakes and mudslides, and you know what happens to those
yeah,
places.
And
oh yeah,
fires.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I like the the green grass and um, it's more like a stick season type of photo, but you've got the elements where you've got the foreground, the midground, and the background with the sky, and the sky looks every bit as well, maybe not quite as dramatic as your other one, but it still looks fairly dramatic.
Yeah, and I did the same thing with Photomator. I just didn't
Yeah,
hit it as hard. Also
yeah.
because the green there in the midground, I didn't want to give too much. Now I just did look at a map here, and that does where this drains into a creek.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Which
and
eventually must feed into a lake or some type of water supply or
I don't know how far off it goes or where it ends. They pretty much everything ends in a river.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, hopefully the kayaker doesn't get too close to the where it flows over.
yeah.
But I see there's a barrier there with little buoys or something,
I don't know if that's a barrier or just a warning.
or just a warning.
I
Yeah,
think it's more of a warning than the
probably a
physical
warning.
barrier. Yeah.
Yeah,
What is this
yeah.
now?
See those
If you
little
look
white.
right in red buoys.
Oh, those probably mean not to go any further than
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Those are probably keep out buoys, I would imagine.
yeah.
They don't want people going over the edge there, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. That would be a wild ride. Yeah. Well, another good one. So I don't have Dwight's third one in this bunch, so I'm gonna have to stop sharing the screen just for a second, and I'll get it back up here.
Yeah, sorry about that, Greg. I saw that the second one was going to be so similar to the first one, and I really like the story kind of behind the one I want to show.
Yeah. Oh, no, no worries at all. Okay, so here it is.
Okay. Now, this was at Sherman Gardens, and I did use the 240 millimeter reflex lens on this one with, I believe the 200 millimeter macro clip on. And the first thing you notice again here is more of the B is in focus as compared to the macro 10x. When I first saw this, the bee was kind of, I felt like he or she was looking at me like I caught him. You know, it almost looks guilty, but
Yeah,
I didn't know
hiding
what
behind the
that
flower.
orange thing was. And my wife said, look at that pollen. So, yes, bees carry pollen, and they use it to transfer it between plants, which pollinates them. And they
Hmm.
also collect it as a food source for their larvae. And it does connect to their legs via specialized structures commonly called pollen baskets or corbicula. So this guy's carrying around a pretty good sized hunk of pollen with him, doing what he or she is supposed to be doing this time of year.
Hmm.
And yeah, I really kind of like the way this one turned out. I busted him.
Yeah.
And and there's depth of field here, right? But you have the flowers in the front. Um, the focal plane on the bee kind of goes into the plants on the lower left, and the foreground's pretty blurry. So I think it's a remarkable lens. And I got lucky. These things are flying all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fact that the bee's behind the flower. You
Yeah.
know, because a lot of times you don't see that. You see the bee like the first shot, which makes sense. You want to get as clear as possible, but the fact it can actually put the bee in focus and keep the foreground out, give it that blurry depth field. And the other thing to remember about pollen, if you're sneezing this time of year, that means some of that got up your nose.
Oh,
Mm.
well, I'm doing plenty of that.
Because that's what gives you the out. Pollen's literally what gives you. If you're allergic to blooming flowers, that's pollen. Or if you live in some places, you see cars covered like it's powdered sugar with pollen.
Yeah, we get that here.
Yeah. I also like, and I don't know what it is on the bottom left. It looks like a. I know it isn't. It looks like a red twisty tie.
Yeah, and they're all over those plants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find out exactly what that is. I don't know. I'll have to, let's see if it
Because
recognizes
the
this.
red color just strikes out so much, and the fact that it's, I don't want to say it doesn't look natural, but it has a very sharp look to it.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times in nature you're expecting flowing curves and softness, and like a coastline where it's not sharp, and that it looks just like a little or a ribbon someone would attach. But obviously, if you look at the size of it, it's very, very small.
Yeah. Yeah,
Excuse
it's
me.
very tiny.
Yeah, I can't figure out what plant that is. The intelligence wants to look up the Western honeybee.
Oh, yeah. Well, is it not the lavender?
Um, I don't believe this is a lavender plant.
No. Okay.
Yeah, this was Sherman Gardens, some other exotic plant they had there.
Well, if there's any botanists listening or watching, let us know. let us know in a comment or leave a message on VoiceCast. There's
There
a
you
link in
go.
the description. But yeah, no, I think it's really cool. I love the fact that the bee's hiding behind the flower. To call this like busted it's a perfect title for it. It's like it's stealing pollen as if he needed permission to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. And with the motion in the wing, I mean those wings are going like a gazillion miles an hour, I think.
Yeah.
But getting the eye pretty much in focus is just key. But it just happens to fall on the same focal plane as the pollen, and then the flower on the left hand side of the frame. So
Yep. Got
Do,
super lucky.
Dwight, could they be California lilac?
That could be.
I
Oh,
was wondering about lilac.
how'd you get that?
I actually put it in Google Photos.
Oh,
And if you have Google Photos, they have Google Lens built in, kind of like Apple
Mm.
Intelligence.
Hmm.
But the difference is that you can click on the part of the photo and kind of narrow down the box of what it's searching.
Ah, okay, that's cool.
you know what? That is exactly what it is. I'm just now. Yep, that's what it is.
Good catch,
And
Dave.
the pictures that yeah, good job. The pictures that I am seeing here do not have the red pieces in it,
Yeah.
but those were all over that one. I don't know what was going on.
It wouldn't be like debris from something that just landed there, would it?
No, I saw there was more than there was a few of those on there, so I'm not sure what it is.
Hmm.
I could have
Okay, well,
removed it, but I thought it just kind of added a little bit to it.
yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, another great capture. The coloring is really cool. Green on top, purple on the bottom, with the like the orangey tones of the bee in the middle, and that big chunk of pollen. I can just see when that bee flexes, it's gonna be a huge limb.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
thank you.
Well, so that's our recent photos, and I think we had a pretty decent batch, nice variety, and that's what I love about this whole thing is, um, the three of us are in three complete geographical different areas, and we have different things that are native to us. I think if anybody's more common to the other, I think Dave and I are fairly close with what's
Yeah.
available in our regions. Whereas Dwight, because of your climate and the location that you have things down there that are a lot more abundant than what we would have here, like cactus plants and that, like growing in a like an agricultural display of some sort. I mean, that you'd never see around here.
Yeah,
So that's one of the cool things about this whole recent photos thing is and you get to travel with us through the year as things change. Like, I had a lot of snow pictures recently, and but now as the seasons change, and different things are going to come up. So um, that's pretty cool. All right. Well, if there's any questions or comments on the show, don't forget to hit us up with VoiceCast and at the link in the description of the YouTube video or on the podcast player that you're using. And uh, I don't know, anything else you guys want to bring up?
No, just good morning, Will. Just get out there and allow yourself to stop, literally stop and smell the flowers. Because that honestly, a lot of times, it's not when you're going out there thinking, I'm out here to take pictures of flowers. It's, I'm just out here walking around my workplace. Lots
Yeah.
of workplaces, if you go into the office, they have greenery around it. They have landscaping around it, and they put flowers out specifically. Take a look at them. Don't be in a rush always to, I have to go from here to here. If you have time, stop and take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. And for those that are dear to us, learn that once photography becomes a hobby of ours, that it is most likely going to take longer for us to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So that is now taken into consideration with my family if they ever want to do anything with me again, because they know that I'm going to stop and look and smell and photograph the things that I've walked by, my entire life, because there's a lot of beauty in things if you stop and just take a look.
Yeah. And it's not just flowers, it's just about anything. Like
Yeah.
architecture, like the lake, Dave, that you took a picture of. Like there's beauty in everything in this world. And it's just so much fun to capture it all. And I just thought of one last quick little tip for the flower stuff is don't hesitate to use burst mode. And when you're getting close to something, getting close to the flower or whatever, hit burst mode, and you do that by hitting the button but swiping down right away towards the image thumbnail or the preview thumbnail, and then that'll get you into burst mode, and just hold that as you move in and out, and then check all your burst photos, and then pick the one that's the most clear on the whatever part you wanted to have in focus. So that's an invaluable tip, I think, for doing stuff up close like that. And
that's a good one. And then take a look around your subject for different lighting conditions. Look up, look behind, look down, look all around, and there's an opportunity everywhere. I think, at least I've found.
Yeah. So burst mode, taking a look around, and Dave stopping to smell the roses. So 3 final tips from us on flower photography that it applies to photography in general too, I think.
Yeah.
So So all right, well, thanks guys for the wonderful engaging conversation, and about one of my can you imagine, one of my favorite topics, macro or flowers, and I hope it encourages people who have either watched or are listening to get out there and try some stuff with flowers. There's so many different beautiful ones out there to capture. And I guess on that note, I guess we'll see everybody in the next one.
Have a great one,
Sounds
everyone.
good. Good night, everyone.
Night.